Welcome back. I got a little wrapped up today in what was supposed to be an easy research day. So I'll just say right now that we do have a word, a birthday, an event, a song, and a quote. A grossly oversimplified introduction to today's topics, but if you hang on, I think it'll be worthwhile. So grab your favorite cuppa, sit back, and let's have a look. Hi there, and welcome to This Day in History for June 19th. June 19th is the 170th day of the year in the Gregorian calendar, 171st in leap years, with 195 days remaining to the end of the year. It's Juneteenth, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. It is a federal holiday in the United States, so the post office and the financial institutions are closed today. And finally, before we get into the rest of the episode, I got so wrapped up in some of my research that I forgot about Word of the Day. Fear not, though, I have borrowed a previous one to plug in here. Today's word is disambiguate. When I saw this word come up as requested for Word of the Day, I thought, well, that sounds like a word that means to make less ambiguous or to make more clear. So let's see what the dictionary has to say about it. Disambiguate is a verb that means to clarify something that's ambiguous by providing or considering additional information. In linguistics, establishing an interpretation for a word, phrase, or sentence helps disambiguate the meaning. Sometimes context is key. For example, I saw her duck. Does that mean I saw her duck or I saw her duck? Or she can't bear children. Does that mean she can't stand to be around children or she's unable to give birth to children? Give me the green would have a totally different meaning if you were a bank teller hearing it from a robber or an artist making a request of your assistant. We need more information in order to disambiguate what has been said. Context. Another example outside of language of providing or considering additional information, a great example is in astronomy. If you, by profession or hobby, look out into the sky and you see these little points of light, some of them, you know are particular planets or stars or galaxies, but sometimes, especially if there's something really far away, it can be hard to tell. Is that a star or is that a galaxy? How far away is it anyway? They superimpose each other. The biggest and best telescopes on Earth are amazing for what all you can see. They gather an amazing amount of information, those telescopes. And as amazing as they are, they still have to look through our atmosphere. And that can dampen the result a little bit. Also, they really do gather a lot of information, and sometimes so much information at once is hard to sort out. Is that a star or a distant planet or a galaxy? Hard to tell sometimes. So now we have these huge, amazing space telescopes like the Hubble and the James Webb. Amazing, powerful telescopes, and they don't have to look through our beloved atmosphere so they can see more clearly. We get additional information, more clarity, helping to disambiguate some of that flood of information. The word disambiguate is a back formation from disambiguation, which means removal of ambiguity. Ambiguity comes to us from Latin, and that means doubtful or of uncertain nature, having a double meaning, shifting or changeable. So disambiguation means to remove uncertainty. First known use of today's word disambiguate is as recently as 1963, disambiguate. And with that, sometimes when I'm looking for quotes for Quote of the Day, I come across quotes by people with whom I'm not familiar. I look them up, and in this case, I put his name in my little calendar book that helps me keep track of what I want to talk about each day. So today we're going to talk about Elbert Hubbard. Elbert Green Hubbard was born on July 19, 1856, in Bloomington, Illinois, but grew up in nearby Hudson after his family relocated in 1857. As a child, he was known for being mischievous and quick-witted. After finishing public school, he took a job in sales, working as a traveling soap salesman for the Larkin Company. He retired from sales somewhere around 1892 and turned his attention to writing, publishing, and the arts. In 1893, he founded the Roycroft Press in East Aurora, New York, and Roycroft grew into a thriving arts and crafts community where furniture, leather goods, books, and more were handcrafted under his leadership. He adopted the persona Fra Albertus and became Roycroft's guiding spirit. In addition to his publishing work, Hubbard wrote extensively. He edited 2 magazines and published essays, satire, and commentary. He wrote several pieces that achieved wide distribution, and he became a popular lecturer on efficiency, work, and personal responsibility. He also held some interesting takes on life, once remarking that prisons are socialist paradises because equality prevails while competition is eliminated. Some of Elbert's publications came under fire, such that he was convicted of obscenity in 1913, but he did receive a presidential pardon in 1915, just in time for him to sail to Europe with his wife, Alice. Unfortunately for both of them, they were aboard the RMS Lusitania when it was torpedoed near Ireland. Witnesses recounted that Mr. and Mrs. Hubbard calmly embraced and retreated to a room together to face their fate. He was 58 years of age at the time of his passing. Elbert Hubbard's influence lived on as Roycroft continued under his son's leadership until 1938, and some of his writings are preserved in posthumous collections, such as Scrapbook and Notebook. I found Amazon affiliate links to those. If you're interested, those are in the description. Elbert Hubbard. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning, June 19th is Juneteenth, and the story on that is that on June 19th, 1862, the United States Congress prohibited slavery in the United States territories. Following that, President Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation on September 22, 1862. The Emancipation Proclamation went into effect on January 1, 1863, and word was sent out across the country. In that time, news traveled much more slowly than it does now, so it wasn't until June 19th of 1865 that word finally got to Galveston, Texas about the Emancipation Proclamation. Slaves were now officially free. They could continue to work for their former masters, only now it would be a boss-employee situation for pay. June 19th came to be a significant anniversary, a day of celebration known as Emancipation Day or Juneteenth. Juneteenth starting in Texas as it did, Mr. Bowers told me that he remembers Juneteenth being a notable holiday in the town where he grew up out in the Texas Panhandle. Cookouts, red soda pop, and a great celebratory spirit, Juneteenth. And now, these many years later, it has become a federal holiday, so happy Juneteenth, everybody. As I was pulling together the report that would become today's episode, I got to the part about today's song, and I paused for a moment and remembered. I thought about how when we got out of school at the end of the school year, many years I would go to Grandma Susie's for the summer. She had a farm, lived in the country. Television reception wasn't great out there. Nothing on in the daytime but soap operas anyway. That was of no interest to me. I'd usually play outside most of the day and come in of an evening and lay in front of the swamp cooler and listen to the radio. It was the kind of radio that had glass tubes in it, about the size of a bread box, and you had to let it warm up when you turned it on. I think we could get WKY radio out of Oklahoma City, but for sure we definitely got KOMA. Yours truly, KOMA. 50,000 watts out over the airwaves. Mr. B says they could get KOMA all the way out there in the Texas Panhandle at night, and I've even heard that when the conditions are right, they could get KOMA in Hawaii. That's how strong the signal was. Anyway, this time of year always puts me in mind of that time, and the song that came to me today with that set of memories was Crimson and Clover by Tommy James and the Shondells. Written by Tommy James and Shondells drummer Peter Lucia Jr., Crimson and Clover signaled a change in direction for the group. The title arrived first, as sometimes happens with creatives. Tommy James woke up with his favorite color, crimson, and his favorite flower, clover, on his mind. The song was then written on this theme. Tommy had made a rough mix of the song with the intention of finishing up a more refined copy. He gave this rough demo copy to Roulette Records executive Morris Levy to evaluate. Morris took it to WLS radio station in Chicago to get their opinion. He played it for them off air, but the station made a recording of it unbeknownst to Mr. Levy, and then aired the song as a world exclusive. I guess it was that, and guess what? The listening audience loved it, just like it was. And so it is that rough mix of a demo record was a hit. Crimson and Clover entered the charts right away and remained on the Billboard Hot 100 for 16 weeks and on Cashbox Top 100 for 15 weeks. Hit number 1 in February of 1969 and did really well in most countries around the world. Crimson and Clover by Tommy James and the Shondells. Link in the description. How about that? As I mentioned before, when I'm looking for quotes for quote of the day, sometimes I come across quotes by people that I haven't heard of before. And when I saw this one by Elbert Hubbard a while back, and in researching him, I thought I'd like to tell you about him. And here's the quote that made all that happen. The love we give away is the only love we get to keep. Elbert Hubbard. Alrighty, y'all take care. Be good to each other. I'll see you next time. And I think that's going to do it for us today. Thank you so much for watching. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. Feel free to share this video with a link in your email, messaging, or social media. If you enjoyed this series, you can check out the playlists in the description. You can find me on BitChute, Facebook, Odyssey, Rumble, YouTube, and X, as well as on a blog page called No Really. All those links are in the description. Alrighty, that's all I can think of right now. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.